So the first half of Invincible just came out, and let me just say, this shit is good. I like Season 2 a lot, but it was a pretty clear dip in quality compared to Season 1. With the 4-month break separating the season, it just didn't hook me the same way that Season 1 did. Now going into Season 3, I wouldn't say my expectations were low, but I definitely wasn't as hyped for Season 3 as I was for Season 2. But man, was I wrong.
Is that all you got?
So far, Season 3 has basically been everything I've wanted from Invincible. The writing is top-notch, all the characters and plot lines are interesting, and there isn't nearly as much filler as there was in previous seasons. With all that said, I have just one issue with the show, and no, it's not the animation, there's literally nothing wrong with it. I mean, sure, it doesn't look like 200 severely overworked Mappa slaves animated it, but it still looks good. Besides this scene, this was pretty funny to watch. No, my issue with Invincible isn't the animation, or the filler, or any differences from the comics. My issue is with the writing, and more specifically, the hypocrisy in it. Arguably, the strongest point of Invincible is its writing, and I'm not trying to argue that. I think the tone and the characters are written consistently well, and that the writing is by far the best part of the show, but specifically in Season 3, Mark is written as a complete hypocrite. We spent the entirety of last season exploring the consequences and ramifications of Omni-Man's crimes. The writers explored Mark's internal conflict with himself and his relationship with his dad, and it was pretty clear Mark still cared about his dad, but was still conflicted about his mass murder.
I made a mistake, and I've thought about you every day since—
A mistake?!
Son?
No, you don't get to call me that anymore!
Then to add on to everything, Mark learned that he now had a brother just 8 months after his dad destroyed an entire city and betrayed his family. Obviously there was a ton of conflict, and I think for the most part it was done well. But in Season 3, Mark's been on a tear. He's more violent and unforgiving than ever, and he's been challenging Cecil a lot, specifically on the point of reforming criminals and using them for his own gain instead of throwing them in prison. Now, I'd like to make it clear, I'm pretty sure the writers are writing Mark this way on purpose. I'm not saying I have an issue with the writers or even an issue with the show. The Invincible Problem is more about Mark's contradicting beliefs and how every character in the show is held accountable besides the ones that Mark cares about. Basically, my issue is with Mark as a character, not the way that he's written. Let me explain. Like I mentioned before, in Season 2, Mark reunites with his dad after, massacring thousands of people. And during their fight, Mark's dad basically challenged every belief and moral ground that he held. The good Mark swore to do, all the people he saved, his dad went completely against it. So naturally, the reunion was a little awkward. But when other Viltrumites attack, Mark puts aside their differences and helps his dad defend the planet. Makes enough sense, right? There's a huge threat to a ton of innocent lives, so Mark works with his dad to save them. Now keep in mind, Mark and his dad haven't even seen each other since this moment. Besides the few minutes they talked, the two haven't even seen each other in almost a year. In fact, the last thing Mark probably remembers is his dad beating the ever-loving shit out of him and explaining how meaningless human life is to him. And despite all that, Mark puts aside everything and helps his dad save the planet from a genocide. Now I do understand, despite all the terrible things Mark's dad did, he's still his dad. Love is complicated and Mark still holds a bias. And besides, he was helping save a planet. We don't know what would have happened between the two if the Viltrumites didn't take Mark's dad. Except, when Mark gets back to Earth, he brings his new brother with him and decides to raise him as his own. Oliver, a sweet young boy blessed with the Viltrumite powers. He'll help bring peace to the galaxy. And then he brutally murders the Mauler twins. So what does Mark do? Does he throw his brother in prison? Does he keep a closer eye on him and forbid him from using any powers? Nope. And he just kind of says, don't do that again, and he leaves it at that. And this is my main issue. Every other character in the show who's trying to do good and reform themselves for the better, Mark is unwilling to offer any forgiveness. Cecil even points out that Mark forgave his dad after decimating an entire city, but immediately throws anyone who he deems slightly out of line in jail. And honestly, Cecil's right. It's hard to argue in Mark's favor when he lets his personal feelings get in the way of his beliefs. Mark's morals are flexible for those he knows and cares about, but as soon as it's someone he doesn't know or care for, he stands on that shit. It kind of devalues Mark's morals and makes it a lot harder to view him as the quintessential good guy. He's so caught up in his feud with Cecil that he ignores his own arrogance and the good that Cecil is genuinely trying to do. And I'm not trying to argue that Cecil is a good guy. He explains it well enough. He'll do anything he needs to protect the planet. But still, they're both working towards the same goal, but because Cecil does it in a way that Mark doesn't agree with, Mark views him as the bad guy. And like I said before, I'm sure that the writers are writing Mark this way on purpose and that this hypocrisy will be addressed. But as a viewer, it's frustrating to watch a character willingly bend his morals for his own gain, especially when that character is supposed to be the main hero. Both Cecil and Mark are trying to defend the planet from threats, and if another Viltrumite came to Earth and caused the destruction that Omni-Man did, Mark would probably just try and kill him. But when Mark's dad and hell even Oliver directly challenge his beliefs, Mark just kind of rolls over and forgets everything that he fights for. That being said, the kind of paralleled storyline Invincible's doing with Mark and his dad is super interesting. Basically, Mark is turning more into his father, showing the same ruthlessness and savageness of his dad, while Mark's dad is becoming more like Mark, helping others and becoming a hero. It's really interesting to sort of flip both character arcs on its head, and it makes for a lot of cool, unexpected plot points, but that's not the point of this video. And there's already a great one out there that covers it. I just wanted to make a quick video pointing out Mark's hypocrisy, because I've seen a lot of people talking about it online, and I just wanted to give my take on it. Stay kind, y'all. New video out soon.